What is up, YouTube? My name is James. I'm bringing you guys a brand new video here today, and it has been quite some time since I've sat down here and made a video. I haven't made one in like 10 months, and the whole process of returning to YouTube has been kind of crazy. I've been really excited. I have so many ideas that have built up over the past year or so, and I'm just super excited to actually make them happen and really put out a bunch of content for you guys and help you guys out the best I can. I feel like over the past year, I feel like I've really improved as a photographer and as an editor. Now that I'm officially back on YouTube, you know, this video is my first one out in a very long time. I'm going to be posting about once a week from here on out, maybe even more than that, who knows. I'm going to be putting out a lot of different kind of content on this channel, you know, some more in real life stuff behind the scenes of photo shoots, tutorials on the sets of photo shoots, so you're not getting really the post-production side, but you're also getting, like, you know, the in real life, you know, literally like me taking photos and showing you guys how I do it and stuff like that. You know, maybe some challenges, some more fun stuff. Before I get into this video, I'm just gonna play a little slideshow of some of my recent work so you guys can get an idea of where I'm at right now with my photography, on location, in studio, urban and street stuff like the normal James usually does. You know, some concerts, lifestyle here and there, you know, it's all over the place, but everything's been a lot of fun and I'm really enjoying everything. So as we know, Instagram is absolutely notorious for destroying the quality of your photos. Anything you upload to Instagram, it's gonna look like crap. When you zoom in, you're not gonna see any of that fine detail that you work so hard to achieve. It's all just gonna be gone. There's nothing you can do about it. It's Instagram. However, we can make it look a lot better, in my opinion at least, through sharpening. And there are two different ways you can sharpen your photos, in Lightroom or in Photoshop. Lightroom has two specific methods. One is in the Develop tab. You scroll down in the Develop tab, under Detail, there's a little option for sharpening. As well as in the Export dialog, you can scroll down to the Output Sharpening tab, and you can sharpen it for screen or for matte paper or for glossy paper at a low, standard, or high amount. Or you can go in Photoshop, and you can do it in there through using high pass filters. My personal favorite is through the high pass filter, as you can apply masks and stuff like that, and you can be more specific with it. Also, I think it's just a better quality of sharpening, in my opinion. And so I use that for nearly everything. The only reason I would ever use Lightroom, I would only really use the export sharpening, just because it may be quick. You know, it's a photo I don't really care about, really only for that reason. Also, you may want to use Lightroom if you don't have Photoshop. Photoshop is a completely different program, obviously, and you can either have one or the other sometimes. And so if you don't have Photoshop, you can just do the Lightroom technique. And if you only have Photoshop, you can do it in Photoshop. You have options. It's a matter of what you prefer. And because we're sharpening for Instagram, we're going to be sharpening a lot. These photos are going to be what you would say over sharpened, and it's going to look like that whenever you're done with the photo, when you export the photo, when you look at the photo on your phone or something like that. It's going to look over sharpened as hell. However, when you upload to Instagram, it's going to look a lot better. That over sharpening is going to be kind of taken away, and it's going to look like just like regularly sharpened, and it's going to look really good. So without further ado, let's get into the nitty gritty here. Let's head into Lightroom, and we're gonna be working with these two photos today. This one of the Toronto skyline. It's awesome. It's like during that, like between blue hour and sunset. I really like this shot, one of my favorites. Also, this picture of my girlfriend Sophie we shot in the studio back in the beginning of the month. Both of these photos are Lightroom processed only. There's no Photoshop on them whatsoever. So this is the photo we're gonna be working with right now in Lightroom. And so we're gonna head to our Develop tab, and if you scroll down, you'll come across this Detail tab. Now, what the sharpening looks like normally is like this. Whenever you go to a photo, a raw photo, the sharpening is going to be 40 at 1 pixel radius at 25 detail. That's the default. Lightroom sharpens your photos automatically. That's fine. This is literally just such a minuscule amount, you're not even going to notice it, honestly. You will not notice this. However, when you let's zoom in real quick, and let's bring the sharpening to 0. Again, you don't really see a difference. That 40 to 0, not much, but it does make a little bit of a difference, and it's nice. It's super subtle, and you know, it's not a big deal. However, we bring that all the way up to 150. Now you can be like, okay, that's a little much. From outside, it doesn't really, you know, you can't really tell that much, honestly. You can't really tell. But when you zoom in, you're like, okay, that's a little bit much. Personally, I don't like how Lightroom sharpens photos, so I don't really use it. And now if you up the radius of the pixels, you get this really like almost like super 100 clarity types thing. You know, it really, really makes this like crazy, like sharp. It's like not, it's kind of gross, honestly. And then you put up the detail, that's just kind of insane. You know, if we make this full screen here, a bit OD, it becomes like super grainy kind of, and like all this kind of meshes together. You can't even see the detail anymore. Like it's actually kind of crazy. However, we're not going to be doing that. So that's really how you sharpen in Lightroom. I wouldn't really, you can mess with it, find out your own settings. I'm not really going to get into it as I don't think it's that good. The other way you can sharpen your photos is if you go to File and then to Export, we can scroll down to Output Sharpening. And it says sharpen for screen, matte paper, or glossy paper. I'm going to choose screen. And then it could be at low, standard, or high. If you're sharpening for Instagram, I'd probably recommend high, just because, you know, you want the highest sharpening. However, if it's just for whatever, for any photo, I would recommend just a standard sharpening for your screen. And so now we're going to head into Photoshop. Now, Photoshop is where I personally like to sharpen all my photos. There are a million ways to do it, but I'm going to show you my method, which is my personal favorite. So we're going to hit Photo, Edit In, and then Edit in Adobe Photoshop right there. So we're in Photoshop, and we're going to be working on this photo once again. This particular method, this way of doing it, is going to be specifically for really cityscape shots, you know, street, landscape, whatever, stuff where there's really no really like definitive focus point. There's no separation between the foreground and the background, or like there's nothing in the middle. The other method is specifically for portraits, things where you have a clear definitive focus point and there's a clear separation between foreground and background. So let's create a new layer here and turn it into a stamp visible layer. And to do that, you're gonna hit Shift, Option, Command, E. And now once you have that layer, we're gonna go to Blending Options, to Overlay. And now you'll see thinking, whoa, that's a little much, don't you think? You don't want to do that, but it'll go away in a sec. If you go to Filter, Other, and High Pass. Now, essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in like right here. We're going to click, and it's going to show up in this little thing right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how much we want it to be sharpened. This little amount here, this radius, is essentially the radius of pixels being sharpened. And so we can go all the way up here, and it's like, whoa, that's crazy. We can go all the way up here, and it's like not even going to load. But anyway, we're going to go back here. And so because we're sharpening for Instagram, we want to overdo it, okay? Now, if we look here, 2.5, you know, that's a good amount. This photo looks pretty good with 2.5, you know? However, we're over sharpening for Instagram. So we want to bring this more towards a 3.5, maybe even a 4 if you're going to push it a little bit. However, I recommend you try different pixel radiuses for different kinds of photos and test out what you really like. Remember, the higher the ISO, the less you can sharpen, because it's already kind of grainy. It will make those grains even more pronounced and kind of give it a gross, kind of dirty look. Be conscious of your ISO and how much you're sharpening with a specific ISO. So we're going to put it on 3.5, press OK. And as you can see, our photo is a lot sharper than it was before. If we hit our visibility eye right here on layer 1, we can really see a big difference in how much it's sharpened. It really makes a city, which looked slightly out of focus before, a little bit more in focus, which is nice. Really, once you have that, you're done. I recommend you mess around with different pixel radiuses, upload them to Instagram. Maybe you have like a personal account or a throwaway account. You can just upload them, delete them, or maybe even upload all of them and compare which one you like best, so you can kind of learn how much you want to sharpen for each photo, depending on, you know, how sharp it already is, the ISO, the lighting, all that stuff. So now we're going to go to our next photo here, the portrait of Sophie. And let's zoom in real quick. Now this photo is sharp, you know. I mean, it's a close-up portrait. It's not perfectly sharp. I'm using an A7R II with a 42 megapixel camera. When I'm shooting studio, this is considered a little bit out of focus. This is considered not that sharp for me. As with the Sony A7R II, things can get really, really sharp, especially in studio with professional lighting. Now, because the focus is supposed to be on her eyes should be sticking out the most. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to specifically sharpen just her eyes and then the rest of the photo. And so to do that, we're going to, again, create a new layer, make that a stamp visible layer by hitting Shift, Option, Command, E. Let that load up. And now we go to Overlay right here. Again, this shit looks so crazy. Filter, Other, High Pass. And now we're going to choose what we want to sharpen for her eyes. So all we're going to be looking at is her eyes here. If we go to 1.5, it's still, it's sharp, but it's not that sharp, especially for Instagram. I think bringing it to a 3, maybe even a 3.5, I think that would be best, a 3.5. Let's keep that right there. And it's not impressive. Okay, we have our sharpening layer now. However, this whole photo is at a 3.5 now. We don't really want that. And so we're going to go to this layer mask here, this rectangle with a little circle in there, and we're going to hit Option and click. And now we're getting a reversed layer mask, a black layer mask. And essentially what it does is it takes away everything that I have in my layer, and now it will only show up whenever I paint white on that layer mask. So with your brush tool, by hitting B, we're going to make sure our color is white, our flow and opacity are at 100%, and we're going to just paint over her eyes, just like that. And now her eyes are super sharp, just her eyes. Now if we get rid of this layer, you can really see the difference of just her eyes. It's a lot more sharp now. It looks like, okay, that's the point of focus. That's what I'm supposed to be looking at, And so now to apply the next sharpening layer for the rest of the photo, we're going to again create our stamp visible layer. Shift Option Command E. Go to Overlay. That's Soft Light. Filter, Other, High Pass. And now this layer is going over the entire photo. And again, so we don't want to make it too high because, again, her eyes are receiving this sharpening as well. And we don't want her eyes to be like kind of insane, So I think a 2.5, maybe a 2 actually. 2.2, maybe 2.1. I think that's a good amount right there. And now as you can see, the sharpening for her eyes is pretty insane. It looks kind of crazy. It's way too much. But it's for Instagram, so it's going to look better when it's on there. Now again, this might not be perfect. You have to go in there and see what works best for you. This photo's done. We're going to hit save on both of these photos. Okay guys, so here we are back in Lightroom. The photos have imported back in. And so we're looking at the before and after of the Toronto photo. And here we have the left being the before, the right being the after. And as you can see, I think it's a big difference between the two. I think the one on the right is obviously a lot more sharper. The cityscape that looks kind of out of focus on the left looks a lot more in focus on the right. I honestly would go as far as saying this possibly could even be sharpened more for Instagram at least, as it looks pretty good just for a normal photo, just like to upload anywhere. I think it could be done even more specifically for Instagram. Okay, and so now we have the portrait that we sharpened, the left being the before, the right's the after. Even when it's zoomed out, you can see it's an astronomical difference. The portrait on the right, her eyes are just a lot more sharper. The image as a whole is just a lot more sharper. And I think it really, really shows for this one. I think it's really, really nice. As you can see when we zoom in, it's just like a world of a difference. I think it's really, really nice, and I think it's awesome how you can selectively sharpen specific parts of the photo. I think it's very, very helpful when it comes to photos that, may not be perfectly in focus. And real quick, I just wanted to show you guys the actual after of that portrait. I haven't gotten to show anyone yet, and I love it. That's going to be the tutorial for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys end up using this little technique, this method for sharpening, and you guys happen to post your photos on Instagram that use this technique, be sure to tag me. I love to see all your guys' work, and while you're at it, be sure to follow me also at James G Meta. The link is in the description below. I also have a preset store where you can buy preset packs for all different kinds of photography, all different kinds of styles. I'm also be making more, so be sure to check that out. The link is in the description below. Also, be sure to leave a like. It really helps me out. Comment. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Did this tutorial specifically help you? Is it something that you're actually going to use? Let me know. I would love to hear from you guys. Also, be sure to subscribe for some more weekly photography and editing content. And lastly, guys, my name is James, and I will see you guys in the next video.